The canteen on Station Erebus smelled like 100 different worlds mixed together. Some pleasant, most not, and Kalara kept her feathers pressed tight against her body as she moved through the crowd. She was Vendathy, bird-like in appearance with silver feathers and sharp golden eyes that missed nothing. Her people were known throughout the galaxy as strategists and information gatherers. And this was her first solo mission. The noise level dropped suddenly at a table near the back. Kalara's training kicked in immediately. Sudden silence in a loud room meant something important was happening, so she adjusted her path to pass closer to that table while pretending to look for a seat. 3 aliens sat hunched together. A Crescian with thick armored plates covering his body, a Thulian whose tentacles writhed nervously, and a scarred Mortharan who kept glancing at the exits. "I heard he took down the entire Black Star cartel," the Crescian whispered, his voice rough like grinding stone. "That's just a story," the Thulian replied. But his tentacles betrayed his fear by coiling tighter. "No, my cousin was there when he hit the Vulcar station," the Mortharan said, leaning even closer. 30 armed fighters against one ship, and when it was over, only the human walked away. Kalara felt her heart skip. Humans were relatively new to galactic society. Only 50 years since first contact. Most species viewed them as unremarkable. Average height, average strength, no natural weapons or armor. Middling technology. The Reaper. The Crescian breathed the name like a curse. The human. The Thulian corrected with a shudder. Kalara moved on before they noticed her interest. But her mind was already working through the information. She had heard whispers of this figure during her training. Dismissed as exaggerated stories meant to scare criminals, she found a seat at the bar and ordered a drink she wouldn't actually consume. Cover was everything in intelligence. Work, while her enhanced hearing picked up more fragments of conversation. Heard he doesn't sleep. Tracked the vengeance. Crew across 4 systems. Survivors say his eyes are cold like void between stars. Every species in the cantina seemed to have a story, and they all whispered when they spoke of this human. Kalara pulled out her personal datapad and began searching the intelligence databases, restricted files only she could access with her clearance there. A file marked Entity of Interest, Unconfirmed Reports. She opened it and started reading. Captain Marcus Chun of Earth, formerly of the Human Defense Forces. The file was thin on confirmed facts but thick with incident reports. 3 major pirate cartels dismantled. In 2 years, dozens of illegal operations shut down. Hundreds of freed prisoners from various species including humans. The pattern was clear. Chun went after slavers, kidnappers, and those who preyed on the weak, but the methods described seemed impossible. One human operating alone against armies, showing up in places he shouldn't be able to reach, fighting with a ferocity that terrified battle-hardened criminals. Kalara's analytical mind rejected the exaggerations. Surely, these stories grew with each telling. As all legends did, she was here tracking Rex, a mid-level pirate lord who specialized in smuggling weapons to conflict zones. Her mission was to observe and report on his network. Nothing more. The Mortharan from earlier suddenly stood up so fast his chair fell over. His scarred face had gone pale, which was remarkable for a species whose skin was naturally gray. "He's here," someone said. And the entire cantina went silent. Kalara watched as aliens of every species began checking their weapons, looking nervously at doors and vents, some actually leaving their drinks and hurrying toward the exits. "Who's here?" she asked the bartender, a Grimlock whose forearms were rapidly cleaning the same glass over and over. "You must be new to the disputed zones," the bartender said, his compound eyes reflecting genuine fear. "When word spreads that the human is coming, smart people leave. This human everyone fears. Chun, he's coming here?" "Not here, but he's in the sector." The bartender set down his glass with a trembling hand. "Rex just received a message. Everyone with half a brain knows what that means." Kelara felt ice run through her veins. Rex was her target. And if this legendary human was hunting him too, her mission could be compromised. She needed to know more within an hour. Kelara had hacked into Rex's personal communications. Not difficult for someone with her training and equipment. And what she found made her feathers stand on end. The message was simple. 3 words in human standard language. "I found you." No signature, no threats. Just those 3 words. But Rex's response was immediate and panicked. He sent emergency calls to every associate, every hired gun, every mercenary who owed him favors. Full bounty on the human chun. "I want every ship I own converging on my coordinates. If you've ever worked for me, you work for me now. This is not a negotiation." Kelara watched through her datapad as ships began changing course from across 3 systems. Rex was calling in his entire fleet for protection. Against 1 human, her training told her this was irrational. 1 person couldn't pose this level of threat to an operation. As large as Rex, but the fear was real. She could see it in the communications, hear it in the voice recordings, read it in the hastily typed messages. What is it about humans? She muttered to herself. She accessed the Galactic database and pulled up the human species file. The information was basic. Humans were persistence hunters on their home world, evolved to track prey over long distances. They had something called endurance that let them keep moving when other predators had to rest. Their history was filled with wars, which wasn't unusual, but the scale and duration of their conflicts was remarkable. One fact stood out. Humans had a concept they called "never give up" that seemed to be a fundamental part of their psychological law. Closed the file. Unconvinced, every species thought they were special in some way. She made her decision. She would follow Rex to wherever he was gathering his forces. If this human really was coming, she wanted to observe what happened when legend met reality. 3 hours later, she watched from a safe distance as Rex's personal cruiser left Station Erebus, surrounded by an escort of 12 warships. Kelara's small intelligence vessel followed at maximum sensor range, a cloaking field making her invisible to casual scans. The fleet headed toward the crash belt. A dense asteroid field that was home to dozens of hidden base wrecks was running to his most fortified position, calling in every resource he had as Kelara followed. She couldn't help but wonder, what kind of person inspired this level of fear? What had this human done to make hardened criminals abandon their operations and flee at the mere mention of his name? And most importantly, was he really everything the Whispers claimed? Or was she about to watch a foolish human die against impossible odds? She would have her answers soon enough. The hunt had begun, and Kelara was determined to see it through to the end. The asteroid base called Fortress Kresh lived up to its name, carved into a massive rock in the densest part of the belt. It was designed to be unassailable, with defensive turrets covering every approach and shields strong enough to withstand direct hits from capital ships. Kelara watched from her hidden position 3 kilometers away. Her ship tucked into a crevice on a smaller asteroid, with all systems running on minimal power to avoid detection over the next 3 days. She witnessed something remarkable. Rex's fear transformed his entire operation. Ships kept arriving. Not just a dozen that escorted him, but dozens more from across the sector. Pirates, mercenaries, smugglers, all answering his call. "This is Rex to all incoming vessels." His voice crackled over the open channels that Kelara monitored. "Standard bounty is tripled. The human must not leave this system alive." Kelara counted 43 ships by the second day, ranging from small fighters to 3 heavy cruisers. The base itself swarmed with activity as more than 2,000 armed fighters took up defensive positions. She intercepted communications and built a picture of what was happening. Rex had pulled in every favor. called in every dead, and promised enough wealth to buy a small moon for the human's death. What are you? Kilara whispered, watching the preparations through her long-range sensors. What did you do to make them this afraid? The answer came in fragments as she listened to the chatter between ships. My brother was at the talker raid. Said the human fought for 18 hours straight without stopping. Tracked the Silver Blade crew for 6 months before hitting them. Never gave up. Survivors from the Dark Star. Said he knew exactly where they'd run before they ran there. Each story added another piece to the puzzle. Chun didn't just fight. He researched, planned, anticipated. But more than that, he simply refused to stop. One conversation caught her attention. 2 Crucian mercenaries discussing their strategy. We hit him hard and fast. Overwhelm him with numbers, the first said with confidence. That's what the Black Star cartel said. The second replied nervously. They have more fighters than us. Didn't matter. The human just kept coming. He's just one person. He can be killed like anyone else. Then why did Rex offer triple bounty? Why are we here with 40 ships when the target is 1 human in 1 small vessel? Silence followed that question. Kilara decided to dig deeper. She accessed the galactic records and searched for information about the incidents mentioned in the chatter. The talker raid. Confirmed. A slaving operation shut down 2 years ago. 400 prisoners freed. 37 slavers killed or captured. Security footage showed 1 human fighting through corridors for hours. The Silver Blade tracking. Confirmed. A pirate crew specialized in kidnapping wealthy travelers. Chun had followed them across 12 systems before catching them at a refueling station. The Dark Star incident. Confirmed. Weapon smugglers. Dealing in illegal plasma charges. Chun had predicted their escape route and ambushed them in what should have been empty space. Every incident was documented. Verified. Real. This wasn't legend or exaggeration. This human had actually done these things. Kilara pulled up human history files again. Reading more carefully, this time, humans fought wars that lasted years, decades, sometimes generations. They had a saying, "We will fight on the beaches. We will fight on the landing grounds. We will never surrender." Their most decorated soldiers were often those who simply refused to die when they should have, who kept fighting against impossible odds until somehow they won. They had another saying that kept appearing in their historical texts. The only easy day was yesterday. She found records of human rescue operations, teams going into war zones, hostile territory, natural disasters. They had an absolute refusal to leave their people behind. Oh, Kilara breathed, understanding dawning. You're not a monster at all. You're what humans are when they decide someone needs help. That made Chun more dangerous than any monster. Monsters could be fought, killed, avoided, but an ideal made flesh. That was something else entirely. On the 3rd day, Rex called a meeting of his top lieutenants. Kilara listened through the hacked communications with growing fascination. The human will come, Rex said, his voice trying for confidence, but landing on desperate. He always comes, but this time we're ready. How do you know he'll attack? One lieutenant asked. We have 43 ships and this fortress. Maybe he'll see the odds and retreat. He won't retreat. Rex's laugh was bitter. I kidnapped a human merchant vessel 6 months ago, took 12 prisoners including children, sold them to the Cavallo labor markets. I thought I was safe because humans don't have jurisdiction here. I was wrong. The channel went silent. He found out. Rex continued. He hunted down every person involved in the transaction, freed every prisoner. I sold, destroyed 3 of my bases, and he sent me a message. I'm coming for you. That was 4 months ago. He's been systematically destroying my organization piece by piece until I had nowhere left to run except here. So the prisoners, another lieutenant started, are here. Rex confirmed. The 2 human children and 10 others. There are insurance, Kalara felt something cold settle in her chest. Hostages changed everything. She accessed the base schematics through her infiltration of their systems and located the holding cells deep in the asteroid's core. 12 life signs registered there, including 2 that matched human child biosignature. Ashen was coming for hostages, children of his own species, and others who didn't deserve their fate. The cold in Kalara's chest transformed into something else. Respect, perhaps, or recognition. In Vendathi culture, there was an old saying: the measure of a warrior is found in who they fight for, not who they fight against. Chun fought for those who couldn't fight for themselves. That made him worthy of respect, but it also made Rex's strategy clear. Make it impossible to rescue the hostages without getting them killed. It was a trap designed specifically for someone who wouldn't abandon innocence. You're betting your life that the human will hesitate. Kalara muttered, watching the fortress preparations, that his compassion will be his weakness. On the morning of the 4th day, every alarm in the asteroid base shrieked at once. Kalara's sensors lit up with a new contact. One ship, small by military standards, dropping out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the system. The configuration matched human design, angular where most species favored curves, functional rather than aesthetic. No backup fleet appeared. No allies jumped in behind it. Just one ship, alone against an army. That's him. Someone breathed over the open channel. All ships to defensive positions. Rex's voice cracked slightly. Remember, there's 43 of us and 1 of him. We have every advantage. But Kalara heard the fear underneath those words. She watched through her sensors as the human ship began moving toward the asteroid base. Not fast, not slow, just steady and inevitable, like a storm rolling in. The defending ships opened fire when he reached weapons range. Missiles and plasma bolts lit up the space between them. The human ship dodged most of it with movements that seemed impossible for something that size. And what he couldn't dodge, he absorbed on shields that flickered but held. Then he fired back. 2 defending ships exploded before they could react. Precise shots to their reactor cores. The human ship dove into the asteroid field itself, using the massive rocks as cover and weapons simultaneously. Kalara watched in amazement as he used tractor beams to redirect asteroids into pursuing vessels. He's not just a fighter, she whispered. He's an artist. The battle had begun, and Kalara couldn't look away. The battle turned the crash belt into chaos. Explosions lit the darkness between asteroids. Debris from destroyed ships created new hazards, and the defending forces found themselves fighting an enemy who refused to follow any predictable pattern. Kalara recorded everything, her training demanding documentation, even as her mind struggled to process what she was witnessing. The human ship. She pulled up its registration, Determination, which felt grimly appropriate, moved through the asteroid field like it belonged there. Chun used the environment as a weapon in ways Rex's forces couldn't counter. He'd hide behind an asteroid until pursuers committed to an attack vector, then use precisely timed thrusters to send the asteroid spinning into their path while he slipped away. He studied this belt, Kalara muttered, watching him navigate through gaps that shouldn't exist. He knows every rock, every gravitational anomaly. The defending ships had superior numbers, but they flew cautiously, afraid of the asteroids. Chun flew like fear was a concept that didn't apply to him. 6 ships down, then 8, then 12. Concentrate fire. Rex's voice screamed over the channels. Stop spreading out. He's picking us off. The defenders tried to regroup, but Chen was already moving. Already 3 steps ahead of their tactics. Let them see where he was going. Wait for them to commit ships to intercept, then be somewhere else entirely. And when they realized the trick, he'd already destroyed 2 more vessels, but he wasn't untouched. Kalara's sensors showed damage accumulating on the Determination. Hull breaches sealed with emergency foam. shield emitters flickering and failing. Weapon systems operating on backup power. He should retreat. Kalara said to her empty ship. He's won enough. Proved his point. He should run. But the human ship kept coming. Steady as a heartbeat. Inevitable as time. Hour 3 of the battle. Then something changed. One of Rex's heavy cruisers managed a direct hit on the Determination's engines. The human ship spun out of control. Trailing atmosphere and sparks. We got him. Someone shouted triumphantly. 20 ships converged on the damaged vessel, firing missiles and plasma. Surely nothing could survive that concentrated assault. But when the explosions cleared, the Determination was still there, barely, held together by what must have been desperate repairs and sheer stubbornness, and it was still moving forward. What is he made of? Kalara whispered. The answer came from an intercepted communication between 2 mercenary captains. Humans don't have our armored skin or our redundant organs, one said, sounding shaken. But they have something worse. They have spite. They'll keep fighting just to prove they can. That's insane. That's human. Our 6. The Determination's weapons were nearly gone, but Chun adapted. He'd ram smaller ships with his reinforced bow, use his remaining tractor beam to tear weapons off larger vessels, even vent atmosphere from his damaged sections to create impromptu thrust when his engines sputtered. Defending forces were no longer attacking with confidence. They were reacting, responding, trying desperately to predict what this impossible human would do next. Hour 9. Rex made his fatal mistake. Fall back to the base. He ordered his remaining ships. We'll use the fortress guns. Let him come to us. It was sound tactics against any rational opponent. But Chun wasn't fighting rationally. He was fighting with purpose, with determination that made rationality irrelevant. The remaining 23 ships retreated to defensive positions around the asteroid base. Its massive guns swiveled to track the approaching human vessel. Chun didn't slow down. Kalara held her breath as the fortress opened fire, energy weapons that could crack a moon in half concentrated on one small ship. Determination's shields failed completely. The hull glowed red-hot from the assault, and still it came. He's going to ram the base. Kalara realized with horror and awe. He's going to turn his ship into a missile at the last possible moment. Chun fired his last remaining torpedo. Not at the base, but at a massive asteroid floating nearby. The explosion sent the asteroid tumbling toward the fortress. The defending guns had to choose between targeting Chun or the incoming mountain of rock. They chose the asteroid. Determination slipped through the defensive fire, battered and burning, and crashed directly into the docking bay. Impact shook the entire base. Kalara's sensors registered the explosion that followed as secondary systems failed and fuel cells ruptured. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then Kalara's bioscan picked up something that made her feathers stand straight. One human life sign, moving through the base corridors. Impossible. She breathed, but the scan didn't lie. Chun had survived the crash and was walking deeper into the fortress. She watched through hacked security cameras as the human emerged from his destroyed ship's remains. His combat suit was scorched and torn. His helmet cracked, and he moved with a noticeable limp. He was bleeding from multiple wounds that Kalara's medical knowledge told her should be fatal. But he was walking more than that. He was checking his weapons, reloading the ones that still functioned, and moving with clear purpose toward the base's interior. You should be dead. Kalara whispered. Rex clearly thought the same thing. His panicked voice echoed through internal communications. He's inside. Seal all corridors. Get everyone to the command center, now. Pirates and mercenaries rushed through the corridors, converging on Chun's position. Keller hacked into more camera feeds, unable to stop watching, even though every instinct screamed at her to flee before she was discovered. The first group of defenders encountered Chun in a wide corridor. 8 armed fighters against 1 injured human. They opened fire immediately. Chun moved, not faster than them, but smarter. He used their own crossfire against them, positioned himself so they'd hit each other, grabbed a fallen weapon and used it with the efficiency of someone who'd trained with 1,000 different designs. When the smoke cleared, all 8 defenders were down, some dead, some unconscious. All disarmed. Chun took their weapons and ammunition, left medical supplies next to the unconscious ones, and kept moving. He's not trying to kill them all, Kalara realized. He's just removing obstacles between him and his goal. The next group tried to ambush him from 3 directions. Chun had already predicted it and rigged a crude explosive from damaged ship components. The explosion collapsed part of the corridor, but Chun was through before the debris settled. Hour 12. Chun reached the main habitation sections. More defenders, more fighting. But now Kalara could see what the pirates saw. What made them fear this human? It wasn't that he was unkillable. He took damage. He bled. He stumbled. It was that he didn't stop every wound that should slow him. Down became something he ignored. Every depleted weapon was discarded for another. Every blocked path became a reason to find a new route. He fought like the concept of giving up had never occurred to him, like stopping wasn't a possibility his mind even contained. Hour 14. Rex's forces broke. I'm leaving, one mercenary captain announced. The bounty isn't worth this. Me too, another agreed. He's going to reach the command center. Nothing we do matters. Ship after ship began departing, abandoning Rex to his fate. The pirate lord's voice grew increasingly desperate. Triple the bounty, quadruple. I'll give you everything. But fear was stronger than greed. By hour 16. Only Rex's personal guard remained. 20 loyal fighters between. Chun and the command center. Kalara watched through the cameras as the human approached the final corridor. He looked like he'd fought through hell. His suit was more holes than fabric. His weapons were mismatched pieces, held together with tape and determination. His face was pale from blood loss, but his eyes were clear and his steps never faltered. The final battle lasted 3 minutes. Chun moved through Rex's guard like water finding cracks in stone, using every trick and tactic from 16 hours of continuous combat. When it was over, he stood alone in front of the command center door. Kalara held her breath as Chun spoke, his voice rough but steady. It's over. Rex, open the door and surrender, or I'm coming in. The command center door remained sealed as Kalara watched through the security feeds. Rex's voice came through the speakers, trying for defiance but achieving only desperation. You can't have them. The prisoners are rigged with explosives. You breach this door and they all die. Chun's response was immediate. No, they're not. Rex hesitated. What? Your operation runs on slave labor. Explosives cost money. You're a businessman, Rex, not a fanatic. You don't waste resources on bluffs you might have to follow through on. Kalara felt admiration despite herself. Chun had analyzed his enemy even while fighting through an army. You don't know that. Rex tried again. I know you had 6 months to prepare for me. If you were going to wire the prisoners, you'd have done it on day 1 as insurance, but you didn't. Because keeping prisoners alive is how you make profit. Dead hostages have no value. Silence from inside the command center. Chun continued, his voice never rising but carrying absolute conviction. Here's what's actually happening. You're going to open this door, release the prisoners, and come quietly, because if I have to come in there, people will get hurt. And I'm tired of hurting people today. You'll kill me anyway. No, Chun said. And Kalara heard genuine weariness in his voice. I'm not an executioner. I'll turn you over to the Galactic Peacekeepers. They'll handle your trial. It's not my job to decide your fate, just to make sure you face it. Another long silence. Then the door hissed open. Kalara switched camera views and saw Rex standing in the center of the command center. Hands raised, surrounded by a dozen guards who looked uncertain whether to fight or surrender behind them. Through an open doorway, Kalara could see the holding cells where 12 figures huddled together. "Tell your people to put down their weapons," Chun said, limping through the door, even through the camera. Kalara could see how much pain he was in. His right leg barely supported his weight. Blood soaked through his suit in multiple places, and his breathing was labored, but his weapon remained steady. Pointed at Rex. "Stand down," Rex ordered his guards. Defeat clear in his voice. The guards complied, placing their weapons on the floor and backing away. Chun nodded to them. "Medical supplies are in the third storage bay. Anyone who needs treatment should go there now. I won't stop you." The guards exchanged glances, seemingly unable to comprehend being shown mercy by the monster they'd been fighting. One by one, they filed out. Chun kept his weapon trained on Rex until the room was empty except for them and the prisoners still locked in their cells. "The access code." Chun said. Rex hesitated one final time, then recited the numbers. Cell doors opened. Kalara watched as 12 beings emerged, thin, frightened, but alive. 2 human children, maybe 8 and 10 years old, rushed forward and grabbed Chun's legs. Sobbing, he nearly fell from the impact on his injured leg, but managed to stay upright. "It's okay," he said softly, his weapon now lowered. "You're safe. I'm taking you home." The other prisoners, a mix of species, including 2 Vendathi that made Kalara's heart clench, approached more cautiously. Chun reached into his damaged suit and pulled out emergency ration packs and water. "It's not much, but it's all I have right now. Help's coming," one of the Vendathi spoke, her voice trembling. "You came alone. One person against all of them. For us?" "For you," Chun confirmed. "Because someone had to. Because you deserve to go home." Kalara made her decision in that moment. She had watched this human fight through impossible odds, had seen him refuse to quit even when any rational being would have surrendered or died, and witnessed him show mercy to enemies who deserved none, and now she saw him gentling his voice for traumatized children and offering his last rations to freed prisoners. This wasn't a monster. This was something the galaxy needed. She stepped out of her hiding. Plus, Kalara had been concealed in a maintenance shaft with a perfect view of the command center. Her cloaking technology had kept her invisible to the base sensors. Now she deactivated it and dropped down. Through an access hatch, Chin's weapon snapped up toward her immediately. His reflexes, still sharp despite his injuries. "Identify yourself," he commanded, his voice hard again. "Kalara of the Vendathi Intelligence Service," she said, keeping her hands visible and empty. "I've been observing this operation for 3 days." "Observing," Chun repeated, his weapon not lowering, not helping. "My mission was reconnaissance only," Kalara said, meeting his eyes. "But I'm breaking that mission now." "Why?" "Because someone should witness what I've seen. Because the galaxy needs to understand what you did here." Chun studied her for a long moment, then lowered his weapon slightly. "What I did here was illegal under a dozen jurisdictions. I have no authority to operate in the disputed zones. I'm what your people would call a vigilante. You're what my people would call necessary." Kalara countered. She pulled out her datapad and displayed the intelligence she'd gathered. "You need to leave now. Galactic peacekeepers received Rex's distress signal 14 hours ago. They're minutes away from this system." "Good," Chum said, swaying slightly on his feet. "They can take custody of Rex and the prisoners. They'll take custody of you too." Kalara said urgently, "You violated sovereignty laws, engaged in unauthorized military action, destroyed millions in property. You'll be arrested." "I know." The calm acceptance in his voice surprised her. "You knew this would end with your arrest?" "I knew the risks when I started," Chun said. But those children needed help today. I could worry about the consequences tomorrow. Kalara stared at him. This human had knowingly thrown away his freedom for strangers before she could respond. Chun's legs gave out. He collapsed against the wall. Barely conscious, the two human children cried out in alarm. Kalara rushed forward. Her medical training kicking in, she scanned him with her datapad and felt her breath catch at the readings. You have 3 cracked ribs, a punctured lung, severe internal bleeding, and you've lost almost 30% of your blood volume, she said in shock. You should be dead. Had important things to do first. Chun mumbled. Kawa looked at the freed prisoners. At Rex still standing frozen in defeat. At this impossible human who'd fought for 16 hours with injuries. That should have killed him. She made her second decision. I'm getting you out of here, she said firmly. The prisoners will tell the peacekeepers. You freed them. They'll be safe, but you won't be if you stay. Chun tried to protest, but his body had finally reached its limit. He slumped further. Barely Kalar turned to the older human child. Can you help me move him? The girl nodded, tears streaming down her face. Is he going to be okay? I don't know, Kalara admitted, but I'm going to try with the children's help and one of the adult prisoners. Kalara managed to get Chun onto a medical float sled she pulled from emergency supplies as she guided the sled toward her hidden ship. She looked back at Rex. The peacekeepers will be here in minutes. I suggest you cooperate fully. Rex just nodded. All fight gone from him, Kalara moved as quickly as she dared through the damaged corridors. The freed prisoners following her. They reached her ship. Just as sensors detected the peacekeeper fleet entering the system, she got everyone aboard. Ran to the pilot's seat and activated her engines as her ship lifted off from its hiding place and began accelerating away from the base. Kalara looked back at the human unconscious in her medical bay. What have I done? She whispered to herself, but she knew the answer. She'd chosen to help. Someone who'd helped others without counting the cost. And if that ended her career, so be it. Some things were more important than following orders. Kalara's ship cleared the crash belt and jumped to faster than light speed before the peacekeepers could get close enough to identify her vessel. She immediately set course for a neutral medical station, while her ship's basic medical systems tried to keep Chun alive. The freed prisoners huddled together in the cargo bay, scared but safe, while the two human children refused to leave Chun's side in the medical bay. Is he the real Captain Chun? The older girl asked, her hand holding his unconscious one. The stories say he's like a superhero. He's real, Kalara confirmed, checking his vital signs again. And right now he's a real person who needs serious medical help. The medical station appeared on her sensors 3 hours later, a Vendathi-run facility that served the disputed zones. Asking no questions about who needed treatment, Kalara docked and immediately called for emergency medical teams as they rushed Chun to surgery. The station administrator, an older Vendathi male named Torvin, called Kalara aside. Do you know who that is? He asked quietly. Yes, the peacekeepers will be searching for him. Harboring a fugitive could cost me my license. Kalara met his eyes steadily. He freed 12 prisoners from Rex's fortress. 2 of them were Vendathi. He nearly died doing it. Will you turn him away? Torvin studied her for a long moment, then sighed. Get the passengers to comfortable quarters. I'll see what I can do for your human. But Kalara, this will have consequences. I know. While Chun was in surgery, Kalara sent encrypted messages to the Vendathi intelligence service. She expected orders to return immediately. Possibly arrest instead. She received a priority call from her director, a stern female named Shalara. Explain your actions. Shalara demanded. Kalara spent 30 minutes detailing everything she'd witnessed. The battle, the rescue, Chun's methods and motivations. So you're asking me to believe one human did all this? Shalara said skeptically. I have sensor logs, video recordings, and 12 witnesses. 2 of them are own people he rescued. Silence on the line then. Send me everything. All recordings. All data. And stay where you are. Do not let the human leave that station. The call ended abrupt like Heller. Spent the next hours organizing her intelligence, reports, and making sure the freed prisoners were cared for. The 2 Vendathi she'd seen in Chun's recordings were recovering, but eager to tell their story. He didn't know us, one said. A young male named Kirith. He didn't know our species or our culture. He just knew we needed help. That was enough for him. The human children stayed close to Kalara, treating her as a guardian in Chun's absence. Will they put him in jail? The younger boy asked. I don't know. Kalara admitted. What he did was illegal. Even if it was right. That's stupid, the girl said with a child's directness. He saved us. He should get a medal. Not jail. Kalara couldn't argue with that logic 20 hours after the surgery began. Torvin emerged looking exhausted. He'll live, the doctor said. Barely. I've treated soldiers from 3 different wars and I've never seen someone survive injuries like his through sheer stubbornness. His body should have shut down hours before he reached Vrex. Can I see him? He's asleep and will be for at least another day. His body needs rest. It's been denied for too long. Kalara nodded and went to check her messages. Multiple encrypted communications were waiting. The first was from her director. Your report has been forwarded to the Galactic Council. Human delegation has been notified. Situation is complicated. The second was from the Galactic Peacekeepers. Be advised that Captain Marcus Chun is wanted for questioning regarding multiple incidents. Any information about his whereabouts should be reported immediately. The third was from an unknown source. Thank you for helping our captain. Humanity remembers its debts. Signed. Crew of the HDFS Steadfast. Kalara stared at that last message. Chun had allies. Possibly an entire ship's crew watching his back over the next 2 days while Chun recovered. Kalara made her most important decision. She composed a detailed report and transmitted it not just to her own government but to all major galactic powers. The Council, the Peacekeepers, even human space itself. Her report detailed everything. Rex's crimes, Chen's methods, the rescue, and most importantly, her analysis. The human known as Marcus Chen represents something the galaxy has not encountered before. She wrote, not superior strength or technology, but absolute determination combined with moral purpose. He operates outside legal frameworks because those frameworks move too slowly while people suffer. The question facing the Council is not whether to arrest him. That's already decided by law. The question is whether the galaxy needs more people willing to do what others won't, to go where others fear, to continue when others would quit. I propose the creation of a sanctioned rescue and recovery force, human-led, operating across all jurisdictions, specifically for hostage situations and slavery operations, with full legal authority and council oversight. Captain Chun should lead it, not as a vigilante, but as an official representative of galactic justice. She attached all her recordings, all witness statements, and a personal recommendation. Then she sent it, 3 days after the surgery. Chen woke up. Kalara sat beside his medical bed as his eyes opened and focused on her. Where am I? His voice was rough. Safe, she said. On a medical station in neutral space. The prisoners? All safe. The peacekeepers took custody of them and Vrex. Everyone's going home. Chun relaxed slightly, then tensed again. I'm a fugitive now. Yes, but that might change. She explained what she'd done. The report. The proposal. The unprecedented recommendation. Chun listened in silence, his expression unreadable when she finished. He said, You threw away your career for me. I preserve my integrity, Kalara corrected. There's a difference. Watching you fight made me understand something about my own people, about all the species in the galaxy. What's that? We've become so civilized, so bureaucratic, that we forgot sometimes right and wrong are simple. Sometimes someone just needs help. And talking about it in committees while they suffer is worse than breaking rules to save them. Chun smiled slightly. That's a very human way of thinking. Maybe humans have something to teach us then. A soft knock interrupted them. Kalara turned to see the two human children peeking through the doorway. Can we come in? The girl asked. Chun's entire expression transformed. The hardened warrior disappeared, replaced by genuine warmth. Of course. The children rushed to his bed, careful not to jostle his injuries, and began talking excitedly about everything that had happened at Kalara. Step back and watch this human who'd fought through an army and broken himself to save strangers, now laughing weakly at children's stories, promising them they'd see their families soon. Being gentle and kind and completely human, this was what she'd really noticed. Not the warrior who terrified pirates, but the person underneath who cared enough to become that warrior when necessary. 2 weeks later, Kalara received summons to appear before the Galactic Council. She went expecting judgment, possibly arrest for her own actions instead. She found herself in a hearing room with representatives from 40 species, human diplomats, and via video link, Captain Marcus Chen himself, the council leader, an ancient Sothran with scales that gleamed silver, spoke. We have reviewed the evidence regarding Captain Chun's activities. Technically, he has violated numerous laws. However, circumstances are unusual. The human delegation has submitted a formal proposal based on intelligence. Officer Kalara's recommendation, they wish to establish a sanctioned rescue and recovery force. The council must vote on this proposal. The debate lasted 4 hours. Some argued for strict adherence to law. Others pointed out that Chun's actions had freed hundreds and dismantled criminal organizations that legal channels had failed to touch. Finally, the vote: 32 in favor, 8 abstaining. None opposed. The force would be created. Captain Chun, the council leader, addressed the video screen. You will face no charges for past actions. Instead, you are offered command of this new force. You will have legal authority across all council space to conduct rescue operations. You will also have oversight and accountability. Will you accept? Chen was quiet for a moment, then said, on one condition. Kalara of the Vendathi serves as my liaison and second in command. She understands what we're trying to do. All eyes turned to Kalara. The council leader asked, do you accept this appointment? Kalara thought about her safe intelligence career, her quiet life of reports and analysis. Then she thought about 2 human children crying in relief, about Vendathi prisoners going home, about a human who'd fought for 16 hours because someone had to. I accept, she said. 3 months later, Kalara stood on the bridge of a new ship, the Determination II, named after Chun's destroyed vessel. Chun stood beside her, fully healed, looking at star charts that showed their first official mission. There's a report of missing colonists on the Thesara border, he said. Peacekeepers say they don't have jurisdiction. Sound familiar? Very, Kalara replied, feeling anticipation rather than fear. Then let's go get them. As the ship jumped to faster than light speed, Kalara reflected on everything that had changed across the galaxy. People still whispered Chun's name, but now it wasn't just Inferno. When bad things happened to good people, when systems failed and bureaucracy stalled, they whispered his name in hope.